everyone, and welcome to our show. My name is Palma Accardi, and you are watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We are brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition and filmed live every Sunday night here at the Irish Pub in Atlantic City.
And I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon. Thanks for tuning back in after a few-week hiatus. We had Thanksgiving off, and we had a guest, and Palma, unfortunately, under the weather. It's the official term last week.
Yeah.
So glad to be back with you. Thanks for joining us. Of course, we are competing against the Eagles game, so it's tough competition, or the end of it right now. We are at the Irish Pub, and I'd like to think everyone's here watching us, maybe 50-50 Eagles game versus Tidal Flooding Talk. I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon, and honored to invite back for a second time as a guest, way back in February or March, I think was the last time.
Sometime like that, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, for those who aren't regular viewers who watch you every week.
Well, I'm Amy Williams. I am a coastal ecologist at Stevens Institute of Technology, and I am a coastal ecosystems extension agent at New Jersey Sea Grant. And that means I get to go out and do a lot of outreach about the work that we're doing at Stevens and at Sea Grant, and other work that I do with the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, and whatever else I feel like talking about.
And you both work, your work is consumed with tidal flooding and life along the Jersey Shore, and you also live your life along the Jersey Shore as well, right?
Yes, I do. So I live on one of the most flooded streets in Ship Bottom, on Long Beach Island, which every single 2 weeks I have to deal with whether or not the tide's going to be up really high. And as anyone who's lived along the shore noticed, in September and October, it's been a little flooded this year. I have been stuck in my house a few times where I do keep the big boots. They're like that tall. I keep them in my car in case I have to park on one street and walk to my house. I've also been just kind of in the house and I guess I'll wait a couple more hours before I go to work, or kind of skip the gym, and it's a good excuse. But
that's just a way of life along the shore these days. And now we're entering peak nor'easter season from now through, say, February and March. So maybe keep those boots handy.
Oh yes, I will.
Well, thanks for being here. Great to have you here, Doc.
Thank you.
Sure, when you've had to use your boots to get inside, do you always remember to put the boots back in your car? Or?
That's always the problem. Do I put them back in the car? At least right now, I actually just spent last year, or the last 10 months of this last year, raising my house. So I have now a garage that's about 3 feet above the street level, so my car can stay safe. I actually lost one of my cars last year. So even though I do this as a living, this is a note to all the viewers, even I actually have lost my car.
You're not the only one.
You're not alone if anyone's lost their car in a flood. You're not alone if you are a coastal ecologist and lost your car in a flood. But yeah, I forget to put the boots back in or take them out, or sometimes they're not where they're supposed to be, which is not so bad in July when the water is a decent temperature. But in October, it's a little chilly.
Sure thing.
Now, before the show, you were telling me how you've always had this interest, even in high school. But what made you interested in coastal research?
So I went to school for natural resource management. I was at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, and while I was there, I got to actually study abroad in Australia, which was like a dream of mine. Go to Australia, see Great Barrier Reef, see all the animals over there that you don't have here. And while I was there, my friends convinced me to learn to scuba dive, and I was so scared of sharks. I never watched Jaws because I am literally that scared of it, but I learned to scuba dive. I didn't get eaten on my first dive, so I kept diving, and that kind of spurred me into following more classes, because then I thought, now I'm not scared of sharks. I can actually do marine science, because I felt like that you couldn't do marine science if you're scared of sharks. So when I came back to Rutgers, I decided to pursue a marine science minor on top of my natural resources major. And while I was there, they did something called a George H. Cook Honors Thesis for seniors. And basically they paired you up with a teacher at Rutgers, and you did an undergraduate thesis. And one of my professors that I knew happened to be looking at seaweed on the beaches, so he asked me to go to Brigantine and do a study on the beaches for the summer. Took me to getting an internship program with Rutgers. They had it's called RIO's Research in Ocean Sciences, and that I was just like, I don't want to live in New Brunswick for the summer, so they let me live down in Tuckerton at the field station. That just kind of spurred me into following along a career I first started doing a lot of work with seaweed, which is, not always the best smelling stuff to have in your car, but...
Usually you try to avoid seaweed when you're at the beach, but you were just...
I'm the weird person that is like, oh, I love seaweed, and I'm sitting there looking at all of it. So the seaweed was where I started kind of moving in that career. And then when I went to apply for grad school, there was a master's assistantship program doing work on seaweed in Texas, at Texas A&M University. They've been on the news a lot this week with the president's death.
That's right.
Yeah,
What can you learn from studying seaweed?
So what I was looking at was, so seaweed comes into our beaches. Our beaches are a nutrient-deprived system. Sand does not have much nutrients, and it doesn't hold it like soil does. It's very porous, so a lot of stuff runs out of it. So two things I looked at of a seaweed was whether or not it could help hold this sediment in place. So did it act like an erosion control? When you had waves coming in, if it was crashing against the seaweed, would it act as an erosion control? And I also looked at whether it could help plants grow out on the beach. So you have this nutrient-poor sediment, this source comes in from the ocean, lands on the terrestrial area, and then the plants use it to grow. So those are the two things I studied. And then while I was down there, Hurricane Ike came through. So needless to say, I was there when Hurricane Ike came through. I was here when Sandy came through. Just kind of keeps following me around everywhere.
Well, hopefully that trend stops.
Yeah.
Let me get back to something you said about, a coastal ecologist losing her car to tidal flood.
Yeah.
It happens to a lot of us. More people than no one wants to lose their car. It's something that is preventable. How do we better? The whole point of our show is to increase awareness of tidal flooding. Learn to adapt along the shore, which is always changing. Weather's always changing. So how can we, as meteorologists and broadcasters and ecologists, how can we educate more? How can we prevent loss of property and, even worse, loss of life, from these storms?
So I think a lot of this stuff that we have been doing in order to raise awareness since Sandy has been very effective. Before Sandy,
they're very excited about that.
I can see the game right here. It looks like there was an Eagles touchdown in case
they're
anyone's
not watching the game. They're
No,
watching
they're very excited about everything we've been doing since Sandy being effective.
Yeah.
Right
When you said that, that's when the cheer came.
Exactly, they were excited. So I think that's been a big change that we've had. Instead of being scared to talk about the flooding, scared to say that, hey, we're having coastal erosion, we're having these issues, we have been actually reaching out, educating people, and letting them know, like, this is happening, this is the environment you live in, you need to know to adapt. So I think that's one way that we are definitely helping that, is just being more honest about it. Another thing that I use is the Stevens Flood Advisory System. They have a website where they are linked in to NIHOP system, and they put it online. It's actively, you can just, I have it bookmarked on my phone. Shows me right at the ship bottom bridge what happens, when it's going to flood. It gives me a nice graph that goes up and down, and then when it's really flooding, it goes up higher and it goes down further.
And it's very easy to read, right?
So
where it will
read.
say minor or moderate or major or record or whatever. It puts it very visually, appealing for me.
And are we on that map, Atlantic City?
Oh, yeah.
The entire Jersey Shore, right?
Yeah, so you can, they have like a box that you click down and you can pick different locations that can be as close, whatever's closest to you. So you could pick one that's Atlantic City, and obviously everywhere in Atlantic City isn't the same, but whatever's the closest point to you. So for me, it's about 10 blocks from my house where they're taking the measurements. And for me, because I live on an island, what I do is I just keep it on the same point, and then I get to get a comparison. So when it starts to hit the mild flooding, I'm like, okay, I gotta watch it. But if it's still in the white where it's clear, then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm fine. And so I look at that constantly.
Now, does that give a forecast? It gives the real time levels and a forecast as well.
It does, and it shows you your predicted and then your observed, so you can see if it's been really accurate recently and whether or not you are able to see a difference between what was observed a couple days ago or like, let's say, like 6 hours ago when it was the last tidal flux, you can see how far off it was.
Which is always good,
So,
because
yeah.
if it's been behaving well
Yeah.
and been forecasting well, that's great. If it was like last Wednesday where you're supposed to get that much snow and you get that
that was
much,
fun.
then you may put a little less trust in that model. But no, it's a great tool to have, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
I think living here.
I'm excited to live here. We all are.
Well, most people, when they're getting ready for work in the morning, they'll quickly check the weather. But living here on a coastal island, we need to look even more into it. Is it flooding? When is it going to flood? To plan your route to work, school, wherever.
Yeah,
So
we get
having
these
that-
windows of 6-hour time periods where you're going from low to high and then low to high, and I have to look at it, because if I don't have a meeting to be somewhere and I just need to know when I need to leave my street, then I have to say, oh, do I need to leave at 6 o'clock or do I need to leave at 8 o'clock? One of my friends is actually here with me today, and she came down a couple months ago and said, hey, is there a safe place to park my car? And I said, sure. And then I kind of forgot that she needed to leave at some point, and she got stuck staying over my house that night. So I think a lot of it is just really trying to figure out how to stay on top of it for where you are and what you personally care about. And you might have to change what you do in the morning. Instead of maybe taking a minute to watch the weather, maybe now I take 5 minutes.
And can you repeat that website so our viewers might be able to get access to those same maps?
It's the Stevens Flood Advisory System. I don't know the website off the top of my head because I have it bookmarked.
So if you just Google that,
Yep.
it will bring you to the
Yes,
site.
SFAS.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that a New Jersey tool, or does it reach beyond New Jersey?
It reaches up into New York, but I've not actually personally myself checked it out anywhere else.
But it's a pretty blanket coverage of everyone from LBI all the way down to Cape
Oh
May.
yeah, all New Jersey.
All
Yep,
New Jersey, okay.
absolutely.
All right, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's say hello, or a little earlier than we normally do to some people.
Well, we wanted to do that. We
I
want
do,
to go
yes,
to our
yes.
Facebook.
we don't until the end,
tend
and
to
that's
forget.
not fair to the viewers. Roger Pope, Paul Osbody, nice to have you guys on. Ethel Flamingo, hi to you. Let's see. Kristen Kaiser missed the regular live stream, so Kristen, nice to be back. We're going to have a guest next week. We are going to take a couple weeks off for the holidays because maybe around our Christmas, trees and Hanukkah celebrations, we're talking tidal flooding, but most people check out around the holidays, so we will be off those 2 Sundays and then back with you. But I have a great guest next week as well, so yeah, the lives will be more regular. Holidays always a tough time. Appreciate being missed and appreciate you being here. Amy is a great guest, always learn so much from her. So thank you, Paula. Kelly Arisman, nice to have you on. My wife watching as well. She should be visiting with her family right now, but she's instead of watching Tidal Flooding Talk. She's happy that her Dolphins beat my Patriots today in a dramatic fashion, from what I'm told too. So that's right. All right, so there's a few of the viewers, and appreciate all you guys. Of course, you can always just listen live. You can come down to the Irish Pub any Sunday, 7 p.m. Eat, drink, watch some football, watch Tidal Flooding Talk. And of course, you can always join the conversation and ask questions of myself, Dr. Amy Williams, or Paul, or Palma.
That's okay.
Paula is one of our viewers I was commenting to. Or because
Also
I haven't seen
known as
Palma
my
in 3
mom.
weeks. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So you also work at the New Jersey Sea Grant Consortium.
Yep.
Which can be pronounced a couple
Consortium.
different
I always say
ways.
consortium.
Yeah.
So,
it says
all
it
right, well, I'll
different.
be the odd man out here. So, what are some of their goals and your goals working there?
So we work on trying to have a clean world, specifically with the sea. The ocean is very important, but also the land that we intersect with are dunes. They like it again, yes.
Well touched them.
Yeah,
So.
there we go.
That's fine.
Yay! And so back to what you're saying with New Jersey Sea Grant, we do a lot of outreach and education. So we, being in consortium is really important in the state because a lot of places just have the Sea Grants at one university, and instead what they do is they have their own location on Sandy Hook, and it's beautiful up there. They have their own location, and then they have researchers and outreach educators from all the universities around, which is really nice because that means I'm not always like It's not like, oh, I'm in competition with Stockton. I know you've had different Stockton members on, or Monmouth University. So instead, we all work together, and we all see each other at different board meetings and different activities. And what we like to do is go out and educate about what's going on in the world, what's going on at the research universities, what's going on at the stakeholder level. We try to reach out to the municipalities and tell them this is what's going on, and find out what the other stakeholders out there are interested in.
Now, since you get to work with so many different areas within New Jersey, do you find that, different shore communities are different throughout the coast?
There are definitely unique personalities. There's differences, but it has been really powerful since Sandy to see how many communities are working on so many similar issues. I know that's the Atlantic Cape Coalition started that way, really looking at the southern counties and saying we have very similar issues, and now we've expanded to New Jersey Coastal Coalition. There are always going to be difference of opinions depending on the different personalities of the town. Do they want dunes? Do they not want dunes? Do they want renourishment? Do they not want renourishment? But overall, the science that they're looking at and the reasonings for something being beneficial or not beneficial are going to be similar, because we're all a New Jersey coastal area. A lot of our areas are barrier islands, which are meant to be barriers, and we now live on them, so we have to deal with how to adapt to these issues.
Do you think, as time goes by and we get further removed from Sandy in a big ticket event, like a major event, does complacency kick back in? You always have a storm that sparks this, lots of great stuff, and I don't know, your work doesn't stop, but do you think complacency from residents, all right, we haven't had one in a while, and that was a 50-year or 100-year or 500-year or whatever. I mean, the one good thing that comes out of a major storm is it's a spark plug for so much to happen. So, 5, 10, 15 years after that storm, do you see a drop-off in interest?
That's a great question, because I fear that the answer is yes. I definitely think as we see communities change, different people move in, different people take office, that we do see a difference in perspective of what is going to be most important. If you talk to a community member that lived through the 1962 storm, or lived through 92, they still remember that, and that stays in their brains and that stays in their memory, but not everyone stays at the shore for that long of a time period. So I do think it happens. I think that there are documentaries, there's movies, there's things we can do to keep this memory alive, even if it is not something it's not a happy time. We don't really always want to talk about it. There's a movie called Landfall that was filmed on the LBI about what happened after Hurricane Sandy, and I really can't watch it anymore because I've watched it too many times and it makes me sad, but other people should watch it. And I show it to my students when I was teaching in-person class. I kept showing it every year because it's important to keep that memory alive. So I hope it doesn't happen. And
it's just meant to, and that's what we do every Sunday, just meant people to talk about it, to let us know that it doesn't take a big ticket storm to create. I don't want to say not every tidal flooding event is going to be life-threatening, but every tidal flooding event can be impactful. It can interrupt your daily routine, what you mentioned, nuisance flooding. It can change your way to work, or something worse as the flooding gets worse. But it's something that does impact daily life of residents and visitors along the shore. Maybe not every day, but, monthly, sometimes weekly, sometimes daily when you have a particularly flood-prone pattern.
And when you look at sustainability in terms of being a coastal town, that you want to be productive and you want to have members, you want to have people live there, you're looking at both your environment and your economy. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. These storms not only affect the people that live there, but affects everyone who works there, affects everyone that likes to recreate there, come down and enjoy our time there. And we want to continue that lifestyle. The Jersey Shore is so epic. It's known for its boardwalks. How many TV shows are made about it? We got MTV making it. We got Boardwalk Empire. So much goes on at the Jersey Shore, and I really think that it's going to be around for a while. And so we have to figure out how do we continue to have a sustainable environment, both economically and in terms of nature. And how can we continue to live this, have these communities live here?
points.
Now, you use social media quite often because you have outreach events and other programs, so you're constantly on social media to inform people about that. How else do you think social media can help us keep people informed and, like we were saying, not forget how impactful a storm can be?
Doing tidal flooding talks like we're doing right now.
Hey.
I think social media has really taken over in the last, I don't know, 10 years even, 10 years. We're now coming to that age where people who are on social media don't know life without social media. I'm older, so I still know life without social media. But we're getting to that point where that's what everyone knows. And that's where people get their information now. That's where people look for events that are happening and what's going on. And so it's important to get actual information, actual data out there, like the show that we're doing right now, because we get to have experts on it and you guys get to actually talk about things that are happening and talk about them happening in the real time that they're happening and the real terminology that they're happening.
Do you think there are any cons to that, though?
There's always cons to social media. Things can get taken out of context. Things can get
misinformation can be spread. I mean, how many times have you seen that flooding picture of the shark, like in the streets?
Oh my gosh!
With almost every hurricane that makes landfall.
Right. Every time I fall for it, I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I repost it. I'm like, no, I shouldn't have.
I did during Hurricane Irene, and I retweeted it. This was 2011. Learned my lesson then, and you do have to take that information, though. You know, you have to know where you're getting your information from.
And when.
And
you don't want to look at a post from 3 months ago and think that it's to date.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens. Someone will post something and it's like actually reposted from like 3 months ago. So yeah, I think there can always be cons of it. You have to really, it's just like anything on the internet. You have to know your source.
Yes, definitely know your source.
All right. Let's see if there's any more questions and comments. William McCord says hello. Nice to have you on, William. Tracy All says hi all. Kristen's giving us an update on the game, which is constantly changing.
I can barely see the TV from here, but it looks interesting.
We can just tell from the bar reaction.
Yeah, that's all that I need.
It's Eagles Dallas, and always a great rivalry. All right. I think we're all caught up on questions and comments. Is there anything, Amy, that you wanted to add that we haven't talked about yet? Anything you're working on? Anything that you think viewers should know? Something that we haven't brought up on tidal flooding that would be interesting?
So one of the projects that I work on, I kind of got brought into Stevens to work at an engineering lab as an ecologist, is that we work on coastal ecosystems in terms of living shorelines. So it's ways to make our ecosystems more resilient, and it's a combination of both our engineered structures that go along with how to increase our environment and our natural entities at the beach. And so that is one thing that I think is kind of a hot topic still. New Jersey's been working on it for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's been more popular in areas like Maryland and Virginia.
Is it not popular here for a reason?
No, it's not that it's not popular. It's just it's caught on, and we've been doing a lot of work in terms of designing these living shorelines, but I think in the next year or two we're going to see a lot more implemented. So we've gotten to the point where, okay, we had to do the research, we had to do the work, we had to find out where they should go. A lot of grants came up. We've worked on about 10 different communities with living shorelines that should have been implemented, and now we're starting to see them implemented. Right in Gardner's Basin here in Atlantic City, there's a living shoreline that I worked on. And so I think that's a good way also to bring awareness. If people go to these areas and they see these living shorelines and they see that the areas are being protected, but they're still getting an environmental protection along with a coastal resiliency and lack of flooding, that these living shorelines can maybe become more popular. So, you know, if you're on social media and you go and see the Gardner's Basin living shoreline, take a picture of it and post it, and you know.
And are you finding that they are more? I mean, dunes have been a little controversial in New Jersey. Are they more acceptable, less controversial than dunes? People, you know, just the idea of them, and when they're implemented, are they less likely to stir up controversy?
It can go either way.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes the fear of the unknown, because there haven't been so many implemented, that you say some new term, they're like, wait, what is this?
Right.
A lot of things that we've done is try to show examples from other areas and say, this is what we're talking about. And then people have an understanding of what a living shoreline might look like. I think as a lot of times they're in less obvious places, like whereas the dunes is right in front of everyone's view. Where they're in other places, they might not have really been noticed, or they might have been kind of already ugly places, like place where there's a lot of stones and riprap, and you wouldn't go there anyway. So I think that they're definitely, once they're created, they get noticed because they look nice. They have plants. They have animals that are coming to those areas. But beforehand, it might just have been an area that was kind of ignored and not even seen at all.
Now, before we wrap up, how can our viewers learn more about you and the Stevens Institute are working on now and in the future?
So I have a Facebook page. I have my own personal page, but I also help to run the Stevens Coastal Center page. That page does have everything that I feel like posting about anything that's going on in town, anything that's going on in the area. I put a lot of articles up there, so you can learn about that on that method. Stevens Institute itself has its own edu page. I think it's stevens.edu, and so you can find out more information about us on there, but the most up-to-date one would be our Facebook page.
And one final question, and this may or may not be within your area of expertise. Anything that you know that can be done for the shore at the East Point Lighthouse to prevent further damage? Because they're slowly losing that battle over time with Delaware Bay slowly coming up. Is there anything that you've been studying or you know of that can help them there?
That's the one down by Morris River. Yes. So we have been working with the community at Morris River. I do not have any specific suggestions at this time, but they have been looking into how that area could be changed. But there's so many stakeholders involved there. There's a lot of fishermen of different types of fisheries there. There's old farms. There's There's just a lot of stakeholders there. So there's a lot of conflicting issues there. And one of the things is you don't just want to favor one stakeholder over the other. So living shorelines have been proposed for that area, along with more research on what is actually going on in that river. I mean, it just moves all around. So I could see living shoreline there in the somewhat near future.
Well, the New Jersey Coastal Coalition and the Irish Pub would like to thank you again for coming and being on our show. We do
also just extend an open invitation anytime you want.
Always welcome. There you go, your very own Irish Pub. And this shirt, I kind of want one. It's very soft compared to the other ones.
These shirts.
And it's holiday color too.
I know, I can wear it to Christmas.
And of course, we thank the Irish Pub. I mean, if you haven't been here during the Christmas season, amazing the job they do making this so warm.
Yeah, this is just a small part of it. It's all decorated and beautiful.
And so tastefully done too. So they do a great job. And so thank the Irish Pub, thank the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, thank our guest, Dr. Amy Williams, and
thank you, Amy.
Of course, Palma and I thank you so much for joining us each and every Sunday. Next Sunday we have Dan Klein, longtime radio host and area personality, who will be with us. He's a guest who was rescheduled from last Sunday when several of us were under the weather, and then
it wasn't just me. So
and Palma's never sick. I've missed a few. Palma has a much better attendance record than me. So thanks for coming.
Thanks
for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.